All right, we'll begin with our consent agenda. We have a pullout on page 12 for Goliad Auto Parts, $472.48. Motion to approve, please. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Page 15, Commissioner White, $77.64. Motion to approve, please.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstain.
Motion carries. Remainder of the consent agenda, discussions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have first thing is approval of county transportation infrastructure fund grant agreement. I believe you all have that in your packet. If you have any questions, motion to approve that if we don't have any questions.
TxDOT grant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve it if nobody has any questions about it.
Need a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need to approve the resolution authorizing the execution of the grant agreement for the TxDOT.
On the first, it says a county engineer, and we don't, it says and a county engineer. That's not gonna cause any problems with TxDOT?
We don't have a county engineer, no.
So that shouldn't cause any problem?
It's basically the same contract we've had in the past. Hadn't been any issues with it in the past, so. If we could approve, the resolution authorizing the execution of the grant agreement. Need a motion for that, please.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next thing is on the list is the approval of purchase of audio visual equipment for the Commissioner's courtroom and second floor courtroom using the CARES Act for Coronavirus Relief Fund. This is no cost to the county. State of Texas and United States government is offering a lot of money for different issues related to coronavirus. This is one of them. Andy, if you can come up. Andy's been dealing with the vendors, and he can answer any questions you have. No cost to the county.
It's actually a camera and a microphone system for both courtrooms. The one here will have one camera and 12 microphones. It's so bad that the microphones are little gooseneck microphones that keep them facing them. So each person will have a speaker right around them so they will plug into the speakers that we're looking at. There's some equipment being added to that rack. There's some equipment being taken out. Kind of what we have is a mismatch of a home entertainment system and a public address. And this will actually tie it in, so it's more integrated. We'll still have the functionality of being able to play DVDs, record and stuff like that. But we'll also have the capability of broadcasting audio along with video of meetings. Kind of a similar setup in the Commissioner's courtroom, but it won't have the microphones with the speakers because that room is so small. It's just kind of like little, they call them boundary mics, kind of similar to what you have there. So we'll pick up the audio Sound and Light, they're very familiar with these systems. They put in the, system that ours county, and I talked to the guy down there. What they did was quite a bit more extravagant than what we're looking at here. Some companies didn't deal with. The workmanship warranty is 2 years for their work, and most of the equipment has 3 years. So, as far as down the road, I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
The old equipment, or the equipment we're currently using now, what are we gonna do with it?
Some of this will stay in here, these wireless mics, and there's actually some other ones. They'll actually integrate into the new system, into the mixer. If we need to use them, we can, but with the little mics that we're receiving, we probably won't need them. The stuff that's coming out of here, what's coming out is that receiver is being replaced by a mixer. And there's one other piece in there that is actually, it broke about 3 months ago, and we kind of bypassed wiring on it and got it to work. So some of this stuff is already not being used. And the
Any other questions?
Andy, do you have a copy of the grant that they produced?
They'll have the grant.
I thought this was being paid for by a grant.
It's paid, well, it is a grant that lasts through February, this particular one. I'm not sure what your question was, sir. It's being paid for by others than us. It's being paid for by the coronavirus. Let me give you the right name, the CARES Act, Coronavirus Relief Fund.
I know that normally anytime we're actually doing a grant or anything, it's run through my office. I don't remember seeing it.
Well, this was a gift. It was already our money and it wasn't applied for. This was a statement from the state saying you have this much money to spend on this. And it's our money. It was designated to us. It seems like every time that there's an upheaval or a disaster that the government these days is throwing money at it, and this is another one of those situations. Any other questions? Motion to approve, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andy. I think every year we decide how many additional fees that we're going to put on how many additional fees we're going to put on vehicle registrations. And this is the same one as we had last year. There's no change. We'll charge the same amount as we charged last year. I think it's $1.50 per tag. I believe that's the number. Any questions on it? You have a copy of it in your packet.
I don't have any questions.
Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So move.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pam, are you here? Mary, excuse me. Approve 5310 Individuals with Disability Grant Program Vendor. Go ahead, Mary. Sorry.
This is the 5310 money that we received for our vouchers, and because of COVID-19, our ridership is down, so this grant ends in August. So they're rerouting additional funds from else. They reduced our money. We'll get a new grant in September.
And this is for the one that's ending in August or the new one coming up?
This is for the one ending in August.
Any other questions? Comments? Need a motion to approve that, please.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Approve 5310 Individuals with Disability Grant Program Vendor Agreement Amendment Number 2 between Goliad County and Rural Transit and Golden Crescent Rural Planning Commission.
That's actually 5311 money. Last month when we received the CARES Act, the 150,000, we still had some additional money left over. So rather than lose it, we had to return it into capital money, which had to buy actually purchase things. So we don't lose the things like usually lose it. I have $44,000 left. Buy stuff left.
We're gonna purchase a vehicle with it or something?
No, it's just a little on the brand of we're gonna get new desks, new computers, file cabinets, that sort of thing.
Any questions, gentlemen? If not, I need a motion to approve that, please. Second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mary. Well, as you know, it's budget time, and we are in the deep dive on that. One of our largest departments, the largest department, EMS services. It's been a while since we heard from EMS, and I appreciate the report you generated. Early on, we were told that if we gave raises to the paramedics and brought them up to reach the pay of surrounding counties, that we would no longer have any issues getting them in and so forth. And it seems that we have an exorbitant amount of overtime, and just trying to get to the bottom of it, we gave you what you asked for last year, and we're obviously going to bust that budget. I believe Rusty Fredericks has run some reports, but I see that your call logs are down a little bit. They averaged 100 for a long time, and now they're in the 60s to 80s, which is good news. So take it away, Jose.
I don't know if it's good news, because it affects the backside as far as revenue.
Hold on, would you pull your mask up a little bit and talk into the microphone? I don't think they can hear you very well.
Like this,
Yes, sir.
I was saying that I don't know if it's good news as far as the backside, it starts to affect our recovery revenue, what we get back from insurance and such, Medicare, Medicaid. We have been affected, like some local businesses, as far as the COVID-19. Less people are calling 911, which is understandable, unless they have an actual emergency. That fear of going to the emergency room and, for something quote unquote minor and running into, everyone sees the news, these ERs are not taking care of these COVID positive patients. And so that reflects on our side as far as less people calling 911. But there's, I mean, that's, unfortunately, that's the case for us. As far as, the increase of overtime, unfortunately, that's, again, COVID-19 related, because unfortunately, we had a case that ran through our, station and affected, quite a bit of us. And in order to maintain, 2 staff units, we had to use a lot of our part-timers and get those folks, because of isolation, the people, the ones that were affected were out of commission for 10 to 14 days, depending on their illness and their signs and symptoms. And so that kind of threw a monkey wrench into our budget as far as payroll. Also, we've taken a hit on EMS and fines because with, again, shortages, I can no longer get 5 of a particular medicine. They sell it by the case now. And that's, if I'm going to get it, that's the only way I can get it. So all of a sudden, instead of buying 5, I gotta buy 20. And so that costs more, of course. And it's just, the rack helps us with gloves and gowns and such. But medication-wise, I have to have these medications, and unfortunately, I now have to buy them in bulk, in hopes that we will eventually use them, yes. But I worry that because some of these medications that we get are maybe for a year or 2, that I may not use these medications fast enough, which, I mean, it's good and it's not good, because, you know, you would like to not, quote unquote, waste money. But if nobody calls if having blood pressure problems, or nobody calls if they're having a heart attack, well, those medications aren't used, but they are necessary. So, like I said, I couldn't anticipate that kind of thing. And I'm just, unfortunately, like I said, trying to figure out where to come up with, and then make it fit to the CARES Act. We do have some money also with the CARES Act, and make them fit for COVID. That's somewhat difficult because, like I said, it's hard to justify cardiac something for something that is not related to COVID-19.
So it's my understanding that the quarantining is taking place of some of your crews, and that's going to be, that overtime is going to be covered through the CARES Act. So that won't be an additional expense to the county, I think.
And I was hoping that we could work backwards because of the CARES Act, that we got monies in April, that we could also, because I'm told that we could use it for payroll. So, should cover some of that, default, or some overages that we've incurred under that payroll. That, anything that was, any overtime or payroll that was, affected by COVID-19 should be covered by that CARES Act.
Right. So I think that we were busting the budget prior to March. That's about when we figured out we had a problem here. So, is there any reason why the overtime was excessive before the COVID came into play?
The only thing I can tell you is that, like I said, we've had people leave. In the middle of all that, I did let a paramedic go because he did not, I felt like he was not meeting our standards of care. He was given several opportunities. He could not meet them, so I caused that overtime, by letting him go in the middle of this COVID, but I could not, in good faith, continue to have him employed here and, have him, for patient care. The first and foremost is my responsibility, I feel, is to provide the best people, to provide the best care for the residents of Goliad County. And so, part of that problem was me. I lost another one with COVID, and I anticipate losing maybe possibly 2 more folks, because simply, there are folks that are paying a whole lot more, and if they're young and willing to put themselves at risk, they can go into New York, they can go into these different states and get paid, as he told me, he makes a month, but he makes 3 months here. Okay? And so I'm probably going to lose a couple more doing that too. We'll see.
All right. Rusty, did you run some reports you want to share? And while you're getting up here, we appreciate everything that y'all are doing. It's a tough deal to go into a situation where you're walking into that, and you're to be commended for you and your people for going into these situations. And I'm kind of surprised that more of you haven't contracted it, quite honestly. I did have one question while he's passing this out. You have 63% were transported, 18% were non-transported. Where's the rest of them?
Those would be the fire calls and football standbys and anything else that we don't, that doesn't count. I couldn't find where to pull those up, but 63% of our contacts are in transport, 18%. No transports, and the rest of them were fire calls, or no contacts. They were gone when we got there. But I did verify that we are billing, even though there's no transports. So everybody, you get their information, which is the majority of the time, everybody's getting the bill.
So in essence, the remainder, up to 100%, goes on top of the 18. There are no hauls. Because I was thinking that your no haul rates were somewhere in the 50% range several years back. And that's true?
We have to look at it. It just
I'm
depends.
not sure.
We can't call them and they say they want to go. So.
Okay. All right. You ready, Russ? Thank you, Jose.
Yes, sir.
You gonna go over these, or? I can, it's up to you.
I just need this one sheet. Okay, the video is annual report by paramedic, EMT, and of course, the emergency management director for 18, 19, and 20. So you don't have to go through each page. Certainly, the really stick out to many are overtime wages in fiscal year 2018 were $102,752. In 2019, it increased to $271,636. $662. This year, thus far, we're at $207,675.
So we're looking at over 100, we're gonna be well over 100%, increase.
Let's go back to 2018 to today, yes. But between 2018 and 2019, there was $170,000 increase in 1 year in overtime wages. I don't think we've got any more ambulances. And I don't really know about emergency management operations, but I understand that you have one paramedic per ambulance. And you start doing the math on what the number of hours it would take to staff EMS 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It appears we're paying people more than just 2 crews at the same time. Now, I requested from Jose some information so I can look into this deeper. I have yet to receive it. But if y'all like, I can come back before y'all again once I have a chance to look into that. But what's really concerning are the overtime wages, in my opinion.
Jose, would you like to respond to that, or, because we're here to try to ferret out the details and understand what we need to do to repair the problem, because you're the, pardon the pun, y'all are the largest bleeder. And it's, we just need to tamp it down.
The quick answer is that between 18 and 19, the payroll changed. That board decided to, that I believe, I'm on this step, I believe that the labor board got involved, I'm not sure exactly how, but anyway, and said that we were paying people 2 different wages, and we're not supposed to be able to do that. They were being paid the regular time for the first 24 hours, and the second 24 hours they were there, they went and they made minimum wage, which is $7.25, something like that. Then they clocked in, if there was a call, so that they would not make, they would make, once again, that $7.25 stayed with them, and on top of that, there was their regular pay. And if they were into overtime already, it was their overtime pay plus the $7.25. And so the board looked at it and said, okay, look, we're gonna just pay everyone straight across. And so when they did that, was when, that's my assumption, is that that's when everything, that's that sudden jump, because all of a sudden everybody's making that 16 whatever plus overtime. Instead of going down initially at 7 and then breaking it, going back up to 24. That's my assumption. Everyone on this board was there, but that's, am I saying it wrong?
No, you said.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Go ahead.
I mean, we're not talking about wages. We're talking about overtime.
Right.
Wages
So
is not wages ain't gonna make you where you're putting in 18, you put in 4,000 hours of overtime, and then you triple that the next year. Wages ain't gonna affect you over the hours. You're just putting in a lot of hours. You're gonna make more money, sure enough, but you're putting in 3 times the amount of hours the next year. That's the question I got.
Still 48 hours, still 48 hours, but everybody makes, I mean, I sent Rusty the
Hours
schedule.
are not the problem, it's the hours is the problem.
Right, it's still 48 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 48 hours a shift. You can't,
Their shifts are,
the shifts are 48 hours.
How many,
I understand that, but I mean, the overtime in 18 was 4,419 hours and 45 minutes. This last 19, it was 11,565 hours, nothing to do with what they make. This is hours they put in. Why did hours go up so high and your runs ain't went nowhere?
Because, once again, hours, you were paid 7.25, and you were off the clock. You were off the clock. Yes, sir.
Your
I explained to you, if you're off the clock, say that I'm off the clock from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., okay? I still make 8 hours, okay? Just paid, but it's not paid under overtime, it's not paid on the, it's just 7.25, and it's a lump sum, boom. You're gonna get, but all of a sudden, like I said, last year, now, these people don't come off the clock.
But you're talking money, and we're talking hours. You're talking $7.25 hour. I'm talking about 11,000 hours of overtime.
Jose, is there some overlap where you've got
No, sir.
2 crews coming on and 2 crews leaving, and there's a 2-hour overlap or something?
No, not really, because they do much to me. When they're done, they're gone. But it is, like I said, when I worked on my second day, let's say maybe, on a good day, maybe I did 8 hours. I was actually clocked in, 8 hours, okay? The rest of the 16 hours was paid at 7.25. That doesn't happen anymore. All of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but what they're paid the whole, instead of the first 24 and then the next 8, they're paid the first 24 and the next 24. See, so that's where you get an increase of 16 hours made average per shift.
So what can you do to cut down on these hours that we're paying? I mean, it's like Commissioner White is saying, it's the number of hours, it's not the pay, it's the number of hours that we're paying. I don't know where 4,600 hours of overtime comes in. It's just a astounding amount when you look at what we had in 18.
I think what he's saying, when they were on the $7 an hour clock, it wasn't considered time or whatever, right? So that didn't go toward their shift, which was, what is it, 84-hour shift? What is it?
It's 48 hours.
48-hour shift. So that wasn't counting in for the overtime, until they went to the main shift. Do you see what do you understand that?
Then answer me this, because in 2020, as of today, you're already at 8,000, almost 9,000 hours in the month. The year ain't over, so you're gonna be close to 11,000 this year. What's the difference of that?
There's no
Where's
more
the
hours
runs
today.
coming in
Still
that
48
you're doing
hours.
this?
Still 48 hours.
So what can you do to correct this?
Once again, in order to, like I said, when we look back, we said, hey, look, if we gave everybody this amount, we're comparable to everybody. We're all in the same boat. For Lavaca, everybody's paying 24 hours a day, 48-hour shifts. And we're paying, like, I think we're $1,000 less per year than Port Lavaca. They're probably the one of the, I think they pay 58, and I think we average, well, where we advertise is 56, or they pay 59, we pay 58. Everybody's base pay is pretty much the same. I mean, I can ask around to see how other services are doing this, but if we start going below that, once again, I'm gonna have the same problem. People, unfortunately, unless you're an old timer like me, these young folks, they go for the money, and they go where the money is. That's why I lost a few, and I anticipate losing more if we start messing with income.
Well, it ain't got nothing to do with income. The hours versus salary ain't got a dead-gum thing to do with hours. You're putting in 12,000 hours a year. but your runs ain't increased.
How many hours in a year?
That's a year, 12,000 hours in 1 year. In 18, it was only 4,000 hours. So why are you
I'm
tripling
saying,
your hours?
in 365 days, if we provide EMS service for 365 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, how many hours is that? Because that's how much I'm paying. Nobody comes off the clock. 24/7.
Well, why wasn't it that way in 18?
Because we were not, they were not on the clock. Yeah.
Actually, it was 5:25.
Nobody said, well, not nobody, but
It was 5:25 an hour during the paper, and he stayed at home. And they found out that they were breaking the law doing that, because that was below minimum wage.
I remember we went to 7.25 an hour. Then I
Then we
remember,
went to
then I remember
7.25.
we cut out the 7.25 to give you the regular amount. And that was gonna stop all this nonsense, and it's just gone astronomical. So where was it gonna stop it if it was gonna, by doing this, giving all this money? Because it ain't stopping, it's just gotten worse.
the only thing that stopped was it.
In fact, it's gotten 3 times
I
worse.
was told it stopped paying illegally. I don't know.
Well, there's no question we need to follow the law, but we gave the raises that you requested last year, I suppose, early this year, probably last year. And we were told that if we would give these raises and elevate everyone's pay and get off the minimum wage deal, that we weren't going to have any more problems like this. Here's my problem. I follow dollar bills, and it seems like a recurring deal that you ask for X amount of dollars, and I know for sure that you asked for a certain amount last year in the budget year we're in, and we gave you every dime of it. And now we're going to bust it by a couple of $100,000, and it's like you just come back to the well and want to be reimbursed. That money is not budgeted. You know, it's not money we planned on. Yeah, we have a contingency fund that we can draw out of, but the situation was put to us that if we would give you what you asked for, that was going to eliminate this exponential rise every year. And it doesn't seem to be bearing out. It doesn't seem to be the case. So we have to stop this. And I guess I'm asking you is, do you have any plan to stop this? Do you know what you can do to eliminate this rise in overtime?
July 13th was the last budget analysis that Lee sent us. And the magic number was about 73% of everybody's budget being spent. People that are regular budgets, not ours. Ours fluctuates a lot. So on the overtime on the paramedics, he was at 70%. Okay, and then there's a little over on the EMTs at 79%. So he was six over on that one, 6%. But his overall budget, well, up here, the paramedics is 69%, and the EMTs is 78%. So he's pretty close to the ballpark of the 73%, right? I mean, is anybody got any questions?
Rusty, how far are we going to be out if we stay on the same trajectory that we're on now?
Well, and then at the end of the year is, well, his whole budget is at 77. So it's like a 4% right now.
If we stay on the same trajectory and we don't change anything, how far out of budget are we going to be with the EMS?
I didn't bring that sheet with us, and I can assure you, you're going to be over quite a bit on wages.
100, 200,000? Okay. So the reason I had you come in today was I need to know if we got a new plan or we're going to keep on doing the same thing. Because coming back to the well and saying, well, we thought we had it figured out, but we didn't, and now we need you to write us a check for this additional amount. And that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, do we add $200,000 to your budget? And if we add $200,000 to your budget, does that mean that you're not going to go over anymore?
I would say no to both.
Well, I mean, we just,
Because like I said, I don't know what that number is as far as COVID. You know, I don't know, I didn't know I was gonna lose folks, I didn't know I was gonna fire folks, I didn't know I was gonna continue to potentially lose some more folks. All those are unforeseen. Now, like I said, I will look at what other services are doing, I can ask them, what does their overtime look like?
well, it's not all the COVID's fault, Jose. I mean, it was 102 hours, 102,000 in overtime in 18. It was 271 in 19, and we didn't have any COVID in 19. So this,
Once again, it's just hours. We increased, because we increased how we pay people, it increased the overtime. It was just,
so when we gave a raise, we put ourselves in line to violate payroll law. Is that what you're saying? Is that the reason we're paying overtime all the way through now? As opposed to the $5 for sitting home? That's what you alluded to?
That's what used to be in the past. Okay, anytime we go down and go to the station, we clock in and then we'd be on the clock. Then we go on the calls or whatever, they come back. They say, it's feasible not to do that and wait an hour and everybody not on clock. So we started doing it for all the counties, the staff, but you have to understand, I don't work an 8 to 5 job. Ours is 24 hours a day. I work 2 days, I work Saturday, and I work Sunday. That's 48. This is my long week. I'm gonna work, I think, Friday, I'm not correct. So that is 72 hours, okay? So that is gonna be overtime. Then the next time I come around, it's only 48. So we have vacation, we had those people out with COVID. We had a guy not work 9 days in a row. I work 5 days in a row. So that's gonna be overtime. To make sure there isn't abnormal noise. So that is, you know, so
the way it was explained to me was that if you require someone to stay in a particular spot, you have to pay them. That's how we got away with, $5 or $7.25, say, hey, you can go away, you can be, what was it 10 minutes now?
That wasn't in 19.
you cannot,
No, not 19.
That was in
That was
18.
in 18. That was in 18.
So 19 is 3 times. as
Right.
much.
19 is when you started this
And
thing
it
that
ain't
says, hey,
COVID, so
you must
that
stay
don't
here.
make sense.
You must stay here. Is when
Second.
it started, that you must stay here in this building. And so in order to do that, now you have to pay people for being there, staying there at that time. So that's where your 19 got.
John, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think I can really help this out, you know, it's been on a little year and a half, and what's interesting is when Jose came in, I don't think I need a fight, right? Okay, but when Jose came in, one of the first things we did, and what's interesting is, just a little history, Jose is correct, before, when I first came in here, you worked at 48, you got paid for 24 first out, second out you got paid $5.50 until we brought us a minimum wage of $7.50 or something like that. So if you look at the numbers and when you look at the cost, so second out is just sitting there running. They're not getting paid, but $7.50 an hour. All of a sudden, first out goes down. Now, second out clocks in, and now second out is on the clock. Average call in here would last about 2 to 3 hours. It takes from the time we hit the door, go to Big Quarter, wherever we're going, we come back, it's about 2 hours. And so that would be 2 hours on second out. And so one of the things that we really noticed was, as the administrator, was we couldn't get anybody to work for nothing. And that's basically, you come to work for 126 hours on second out. So what happened? I'm getting there. And so what happened is that everybody in the area decided to try to save some money. It doesn't look like that. Has gone to a 4896. Check every fire department, we check every EMS department. It's not private. It's gone to a 4896. And what's interesting about all of this, Judge, is that this is the first year. So this is what you have a history of and 19 was of the 48,966. And so when we were deciding, and I say we, the people that were here before, best guess that we could do was how much was this going to cost? And so what we're trying to figure out, if you're doing a 48,966, you're working 2 days, you're off 4 days. You work 2 days, you're off 4 days. And so you're circling around, and I don't remember the number of hours or whatever. But it got to be about $57,000 is what we were probably looking at, which is what everybody else around here is paying, which is what we're wanting to get quality minutes. And so, as far as we look at hours, you know, hours do count into money. Because all of a sudden, instead of, John not getting paid $7.25 an hour, now he's getting paid $16 an hour, like he should get paid. He did do 1,400 hours trying to get where he was at, and he does save people lives. And so now, our numbers are not going to go up, our overtime is going to go up. And so, if you know what's sad about all this, guys, is you're sitting here, Pat and everybody else that has worked here for the last 15 years, just think what they sacrificed for you guys. There's the money. They sacrificed giving up their family, giving up the holidays, giving up the Christmas for a low wage. And now we're here talking about money. So just, I'll finish it up. And so what's happening is here, we do collect about $450,000 back in. We're the only one that does that. Sheriff's Office, I think they could get about $100,000 if you do it correctly. But, and so that $1 million, budget is only $550,000 to know that somebody's going to be there 7 days a week, 24 hours.
John, we're not discounting the value of them.
But I'm just telling you.
Don't hear me saying that. We're not discounting the value, and I've worked a lot of weekends and nights in my former life. Trust me, I got that part. I got that part. We're trying to figure out where we go with these budgets. You're telling me that what John said was, correct me if I'm wrong, you said this is the new norm.
Well, once again, I guess so. We're going to have 4896. They said you have to have a permit on every MITU unit. So if you're running 2 units, that's at least 2 permits. If you get it in here and add them, but yes, sir. I would say, unless, once again, if you got to have hours, but when you get you hire somebody new, they got to, Bill training officer. You remember how that is. Somebody's going to make you sign for a little while before you get the check. So that's where some of those other hours come.
Okay, all right.
I hope that helps.
Thank you. Rusty, don't run off.
I just want to remind everybody, last year when we were doing the budget, we talked about using part-time employees to avoid the payment of overtime. If you pay an overtime premium of 1.5%, not 1.5%, 1.5 times the regular pay. And if you were paying these hours at a regular wage, the cost would be much, much less. And keep in mind, all this overtime, you pay workers' comp on it, you pay payroll taxes on it, you pay retirement on it. Your dividends and everything is probably 35%.
It adds up. It adds up.
But then our question, which Jose's answered many times, are people just knocking down the door?
Well, and that was one of the things that we did last year to address that was, I think, the prior years, the part-timers were paid less. Last year, we said, okay, pay them the same as a full-time person.
That's what it was.
And that's when I think Jose said, we can do this.
Still, do we?
We're not going to get more people in. Overtime will continue.
So,
But I know he does his best to try to find people to fill these spots, but there again, are people knocking down the door?
Well, it seems like we have a lot on door. If you look at the number of employees and the names, we've got people that come in work 2, 3 weeks, and they're, I don't know what the reason is.
Well, and then the part-timers are people that have full-time jobs at other, EM.
Right, they just fall in.
And they're just filling their week up and making extra money. So you know, there, what do we got? 3 people from Goliad that are on the payroll, probably? And the rest of them are all from out of town.
So this time of year, we ask for your wish list when you come in and say, we need this much more for all the categories in your budget. And we kind of depend on you to give us a good number so that we can create a budget that fits and makes sense. And this one seems to be out of whack. And I was not aware of the fact that you're paying overtime now when after we gave them the raise. So we shot ourselves in the foot, it sounds like, by giving the additional raise, and we're having to.
The raise was for the part-timers. I don't think any full-timers got the 3% that all the county employees got. The raise, I guess I'm guessing that you might be talking about is bringing the part-timers up. But I'm thinking that it's my part-time EMT that's already in the rate. So, you know, I'm using those part-timers. And, so I'm already like, now you know, it's not like I'm not using these part-timers, because as you can tell in my budget, I'm already in the red for the part-timers.
So your part-timers won't come and work, you just can't get them? Or they're working somewhere else?
Like I said, they have second jobs, and, but my part-time pool for EMT is very, very thin. In fact, I think I have 1 EMT, because the one that just left I put my part-timer into that full-time slot. I asked him if he would be willing to do it. He said yes, and so he took that full-time spot. Now I have 1 EMT, part-timer. I have, you know, 6 part-time paramedics. And God knows, like I said, if someone calls in sick, they'll start calling. And that's the thing. That's the bad part of it, is that you can't force any of these part-timers in. And so sometimes we run into a situation where nobody wants to come in, and we got to hold somebody over. And that kind of thing.
It happened the other night at 11 o'clock at night. Somebody had a family emergency with their child that got breathing. So the day that I covered, I will have 12 hours of overtime. It had to be covered. We're not going to leave the county uncovered.
Well, we're going to have to visit this again pretty soon. I'll have you come over here one day very soon, and we need to go over this for obvious reasons, because we just can't continue to dip in the well when we think we've given. I'll say it like this: if someone comes in and they say, you know what, I can make my office run on this, and I understand there's a whole lot of difference in the JP office versus when with all the personnel that you're trying to manage. It's almost like herding cats. But we have to be able to put some confidence in the numbers that you give us and say, if you'll do this for me, I'll be able to do this for you. And all that transpired, we did what we were asked to do. So we're going to have to just sit down and really go after this. I don't know why we don't have more part-timers. Are they getting paid more somewhere else? Or did they just get out of the medical profession? Did they move away? Are they all working in New York where there's triple pay? I don't.
And to be honest with you, I attract more from San Antonio, Austin, in that area, than I can get locally. I wish I could find some folks I'll take that back. I got 2 from Cuero, poached them. But, I mean, it's like from Victoria or Frisco, somebody locally just can't attract them. I'm not sure why.
Okay, well, sure.
Are we getting any of the CARES Act money that's given back in EMS or Sheriff's Department or the volunteer services?
That money that, correct me if I'm wrong, Rusty, but I think the money that comes back through the CARES Act should go back in and credit your budget. Absolutely. Because the 5 people or however many you had that were quarantined, we were paying double during those periods of time. We understand that, and we know that there's been some changes due to this virus. But putting that aside, the numbers they're still way up. And we have to do what we're doing here. We have to try to get to the bottom of it. So that's all I've got. If there's any other questions, please.
Yes, please. I would like to say something. I'm looking at the budget versus actual expenses for the year 2018-10-1 to 2019-9-30. So that's for the full 18. You add up the salaries, the EMT salaries, paramedics, the part-time paramedics and EMTs over what they were budgeted for 2018-2019, comes to $85,000, 871. On the overtime for paramedics and EMTs, and this comes from Rusty's office today, it shows them as nothing, 0. Overtime and part-time overtime, part-time paramedic, or overtime paramedics and overtime EMTs, 0. And now it's the same thing again.
Okay, well, keep in mind, I wasn't here in 18 and 19. When that was done.
And how did you get this number? This 271?
I took those directly out of the software, and I had to correct some of that. But this year's audit.
See, that's what I'm saying is, nothing ever comes together. It's budget versus actual. Here's the other half. And the whole thing comes to only 120. Overtime.
Okay, I see what you did. This is the year-to-date numbers here. This is the variance column. These are your annual numbers right here. In this column, not this one.
That's the current balance.
No.
That's how much we were over. Right?
Okay, but here's your total right here. Your annual total is that number right, these numbers right here.
See, and they're not over at all.
No, I'm not talking about over. No, well, you're talking, I understood you to say the total amount. This is the total amount paid for the year.
Okay.
So you would have to add those up. This is the variance line item, whether it was over or under.
But that's what we're talking here, is how much we went over. Correct?
Well, no, but you have to go back over here and look and see if they were amended. You know, I don't have this in front of me,
I know.
but,
That's my problem, is it doesn't seem to,
well, no, these numbers here should tie to those numbers there in total.
123.
No, this here is just wages. This here is just wages.
But it would be more than that then. It shouldn't be less. If you totaled this is totaled every line in this column, it's only 123. See what I'm saying?
Well, no, but it's just one.
Let's move on.
Just come by, I'll point it to you. Over there.
So we're going to have to continue to work on this until we come up with a solution, because it's not a bottomless pit with dollar bills floating around in it. It just isn't. So that's all I've got on that. There'll be no action on that. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the possibility of putting on a non-binding referendum on the November ballot to allow the citizens of Goliad to have a say in whether or not we want to form an emergency services district, because in my opinion, the EMS needs some help managing this. It's not a simple problem. It's complex. Anytime you're dealing with multiple people, trying to convince them that they need to come to work, when all the other things, all the other strings are pulling on them, family life and other jobs and so forth. So I'd like to have a discussion on whether or not we can, just a minute, Mr. Belmonte. So I'd like to have a discussion on whether or not we can have a non-binding referendum. We don't have time to do petitions, nor has there been not nearly enough discussion on whether this is a good thing. But I believe if we had a board of directors and an emergency services district to manage these dollars and help assist Jose and Pat in managing this complex issue, and it's probably going to get more complex. Who knows what's next? So that's what I'd like to discuss. We don't have time for a binding referendum, but we do have time for a just to allow the citizens to decide whether or not they want an emergency services district formed. And then it'll be a year down the line or more afterwards. So let's open that discussion. Mr. Bruins, do you have any comment on that?
I guess about a year ago, we discussed this, and we thought it was maybe a good idea to look into it. Okay, so Rusty, I think, was going to contact some other counties, try to find some other EMS districts. I think what we found, or what he found, was most of their EMS districts were in their hospital districts. The hospitals had the EMS service. So I did put out on the web serve this evening about questioning other counties if they have if any of them have a EMS district. And of course I did it about noon, so I've only got one reply from one person. And I think it would be interesting to see how many are out there. I hate, and I understand, yeah, then you got a board that, yeah, oversees it just like a hospital and all that. But I don't want to get in the same situation like our software, where we were the only county in the United States that used them for accounting. We don't want to be the only county in Texas or United States that has an EMS district. But, well, hold on. So the other questions, we have to put if we did do this, we have to educate the public on this. Okay, so it's still a tax. It's moved from this tax line to this tax line. Okay, do we build them a home and for them to use, like the library? I know the library is still county, but it's basically kind of a offset deal. The water district, we provide them a home. So these are all questions that need to be asked, and other counties, I think, can answer these questions for us. So there again, I'm not against this. We just need more information, I really believe.
We need more information. Gonzales has one. I think they're fairly satisfied with theirs. I'm not sure about Calhoun County. Maybe, no. So Gonzales is probably the closest one. And it may be well worth getting with some of those people over there and just figuring out if it's something we would like to be married to. It's a selfish thing on my part in that we just don't have the time or the resources to help you manage this overtime. Whereas if you have an emergency services district, you've got a board of directors, and they can concentrate and give full effort to helping you out. I think it would be a benefit to you. And I think we have until the 17th of August, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, to get on a November ballot just to see if there's a taste for it within the county. It doesn't mean that we're changing what we do. It doesn't, It certainly doesn't mean that we're gonna privatize as soon as none of that. It's to have an emergency services district. I read today that a dime is the limit as to what you can put into it. And if we had a dime to spend on it, it would be pretty close. It takes a penny, rough numbers, a penny to have $100,000 raised in ad valorem taxes in Goliad County. So it's something that I would like to look into. It doesn't cost to look. Interview these other counties. They don't have to be in a county that's directly adjacent to us, Gonzales being one county over, but I'm sure there's a lot that we can touch base with and just see what their feelings are on it. But I think we need some better controls on this. This is a large budget, and we just don't seem to have the ability to get our arms wrapped around it. It's not all your fault. Nobody knew that this stuff was going to come this year and disrupt all of our lives. We're all sitting in there with masks on our heads. Nobody knew that, but it happened. So now we have to deal with it and move forward. Who knows what's next? So that's my proposal. I'd like to see if there's any more discussion or agreement on maybe looking at that, and just let the people have a say. It's non-binding. It allows all these people to just say, hey, I want it, or no way, Jose. Yes, sir.
Emergency services usually always have money for power costs included in that 10% tax. I think Mr. Brown was talking about an EMS district, which is totally different. That's just money for the EMS. Emergency service district includes money for all. Right now, all the country fire departments have fundraisers. They raise their own money to cover their bills.
Mm-hmm.
But there's emergency service district. Most rural fire departments, where they have those, do not have to have their own fundraisers.
So we don't have all the answers, but I think it's the prudent thing to do to go out and get the answers. And the thing about an emergency service district is this. Let's say they put a dime of tax. I think the way it would work, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Balmonte, if we took a dime out of our tax rate and it went from 65 cents to 55, the emergency service district would pick up that dime. So Mr. Christopher's not going to pay more taxes. He's just going to be paying it the same amount, but it's going to be to different entities. The difference is that the emergency services district, there's no well that you can dive off into and lower the bucket. It is what it is. This is how much money you were given to operate this year. Figure out what you're going to need, because that's it until next budget year. And we've gotten in this cycle where it's just become accepted practice that emergency services just goes over, and there's always a reason, but they just go over, and then the county makes up for it out of the coffers. Also, with the emergency services district, you could incorporate the fire department as well. I mean, when y'all were talking about doing the combination fire department and EMS, I never did understand how that could work unless they were all under the same umbrella. So that would clear the way. Having said all that, the city absolutely has the right to say, we're opting out of this deal, we're not going to be a part of it. And then the city would contract with the emergency services district for service inside the city. Is that correct, sir?
I don't believe so.
You don't know, or it's not correct?
Another thing that is, do you have a statute talks about non-binding referendum.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Do you have a statute or some provision in the Constitution that allows for a non-binding referendum on this emergency district?
I do not have any statute in front of me, but I have voted in non-binding referendums.
No, but I'm talking about this.
I do not have a statute in front of me.
This statute is over 86 pages long, and all it deals with is emergency service districts.
Okay?
Nowhere in there does it talk about non-binding referendum.
Well, I don't think there's ever an issue.
It's very specific. You have to have a petition before the court. That's to be signed by at least 100 people. 2 of those people are going to guarantee the cost. And you got to put it in favor when you're going to have a hearing. You're going to have a hearing. It goes on and on and on.
There's certainly no rules that keep us from allowing the public to have a say in something, whether or not they want to vote to approve it. It may not say you can, but we can have a vote for the public to vote to see if it's in their palate, if they like it.
Well, I don't know if we can have a vote on the November ballot. I agree that you can have a hearing. You may have to have it out the auditorium. I know that when they were looking at doing uranium mining in this county, there was a huge turnout. And as long as that's the democracy, that's how it works. If people come and say what they want, it's not, I've never heard of a non-binding agreement pertaining to this particular law.
I don't remember using the word agreement, sir. I said it was a non-binding referendum to allow the citizens to see if they want to do this, because it's going to change the way they get their medical care. If you can show me the statute that says we can't do that, then my ears will perk up.
Well, President of Goliad County, why would you, from our court, care if people in Goliad get the vote for their medical care?
Because what I do is I talk about what's legal.
Okay.
That's important to do what they want.
Okay.
I don't want the court to go out and do something illegal. So I don't know where the authority is to say that we can have something on the ballot without following this statute.
That's if you're trying to form one. That's if you're trying to form one. You have to follow the statutes if you're trying to form one. I got a step-by-step deal here. I'm talking about seeing if the people in the county want this. There is no rule or law that says that we can't let the county citizens, the people that pay the freight on this thing, decide whether or not this is something they want to entertain. But as I said, you show me the statute where they can't. Is there no interest in this? I mean, y'all aren't interested, or you?
No, we've talked about it before, like Commissioner Bruce said, discussed it. I mean, that would be super if we go to get an emergency services district.
So do you want to?
But there again, I mean, we got to make sure that everything is kosher. You just can't.
Okay, if it's a non-binding referendum and you let the citizens check a box one way or the other in November, whether or not this is something that they like, then it'll give us the green light or the red light to move forward or not move forward. There is nothing, as far as knowing whether it's copacetic or not, I don't know. But I'm telling you this, coming back to the well and throwing a bucket in it year after year, when we give all that was requested of us, that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in any business. And I understand there's things that come up, but this is no way to run an airline. You can't do this. We have to get closer on our cost estimates. That's all I'm saying. Yes, sir.
That's 7 years ago, during Harold Feinger's term as county judge. This situation about the emergency service system came up, and they decided to do it.
And they were what? I didn't hear a little bit about it.
The proposal was nobody was interested.
So we've got until, I think, the 17th of August. I could be off a couple of days to get something like this on the ballot. Is this something that we can look at and talk about and maybe vote on do some homework in between and let's figure out where we're at, because I think this is prudent to do this. Just to let them figure out if they want to pay for it. Because it's just, in my view, the best way to do it.
And I believe, yeah, informing the public, you can't just ask them to go mark yes or no, you know, because they have to have the information. Okay, perfect example, some years back, we had a school superintendent wanted $16 million. $16 million. What did he want it for? He never would say. He had a facility committee go out to all the schools. There were teachers, people from the public, students, faculty, you know, whatever, administrators, everybody, and came back with a plan to for the school to go out for a bond. The superintendent threw the whole thing out, all their studies, their weeks and weeks and hours of study, he threw it out, and he had the bond put on the ballot, and he wanted a new high school. You know, to hell with all the other buildings, we don't get us a new high school. Well, we worked hard against that, and we won, because then the bond came out for a vote later that described all of the different repairs and additions and things that this $16 million was going to pay for. And it worked, and it improved our school system. So we have to inform the public.
I got that.
What this is, and another thing you got to look at, that we give them 10 cents, but then when they get this 10 cents, they're going to get this other $300,000 to $400,000, because I'm sure that goes back in their account and not into our general fund.
You're talking about
it went into what
they bring back in.
Yeah.
So, you know, so as county business, we'll lose this $300,000 to $400,000, but no, and if they get that, well, you know what? Well, we'll just give everybody a raise, and they'll keep the 10 cents plus the $300,000 to $400,000. So all of this, you have to look into this and what these other counties are doing and how they're working that system.
I'm not sure how that scenario you just described would play out,
but we have to see how other counties are working this.
So what I would
shows 39 counties that have this exact system.
Okay.
2 of them are next door.
And they are EMS, not
not EMS, they're emergency service district.
emergency service.
Yeah, that's a different banana.
So if we would split,
Check with them.
so we would split this 10 cents with fire departments and stuff like that, which we do donate to all the fire departments. It's, now you don't have 10 cents for EMS anymore.
Well, you brought a whole nother idea into it. The 10 cents would have to go to the emergency services district, because that's what it takes to fund them.
Right. And emergency services does include probably emergency management and fire, right?
No.
No? What?
Emergency services provides services. Emergency management's a whole different apple. So
that's what we got to educate people on. Like,
I understand that.
What is that?
So let's do this. For the next 2 weeks, let's look into the emergency service districts that are in the southern half of the state and try to have dialogue and conversation with them, see if they like it or not. And if they do, we can come back and allow the voters to have their decision on whether or not they'd like to pursue it. It's not binding. And then we can move on. And it'll take us another year or so to get it put together. But we just have to stop the bleeding. We just can't continue to just, how much you need, Jose? Not you, but how much you need, the EMS director? How much extra you need this year? 150,000. Okay, no problem. You wouldn't run Jose's shoe shop that way. It just wouldn't work out. And ExxonMobil doesn't do it that way either. So,
But, and there again, John Creech's favorite words, what is a life worth? What is a life worth? So I don't think he's just throwing money at these employees. I think he's working hard to fill these spots, but it's a hard task right now.
I was a first responder. I understand that part. I understand what they go into. I'm not sure that what they do isn't worse. At least I could see guns. They can't see the virus. So I got that part. No one discounts anything that our first responders does. But let's do it efficiently, and let's know what it's going to cost us or have a rough idea before we set tax rates and everything that goes with it. Let's figure that out. So what do y'all want to do?
And then one more question. I'd probably still going to have to go with the EMS this next year, right? Budget year?
Because we can't get it together in that period.
By then, okay.
Right.
This is not something you're trying to do before.
It's not something we're going to vote on in November. And
85% of the people say, yeah, we'd like to pursue this, or 25.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand.
75 that don't. And then they say, no.
We have.
Talking about joining hands with the fire department,
It costs money to.
put them in the same building. I don't see how you can do it without having them under the same umbrella. I never did understand that. I know it was on the wish list, but I just didn't ever understand how you could cohabitate and the fire department's gonna pay for the electrical and somebody else gonna pay for this, and it's just discombobulated. So if the fire department and the ambulance service were under the same umbrella, it seemed like it would be much smoother.
That's correct. That's what I've been,
I have heard this.
that's smoother.
Well, my question is,
City?
Is willing to go in.
there's other ways to do this too, because if we fund the hospital district the first year or whatever, they're gonna,
Emergency Services District.
when they run out, like this year, are we just gonna say, we'll see you next year? Are we're gonna do what we're doing now? We're gonna still try to keep them serving us.
What I would tell you is that rather than getting a report biannually, if that often, that a board of directors is watching the overtime and the expenditures along the way, and you make small adjustments along the way, as opposed to July 27th, we're going to set some new rules. You got one ambulance running and that's the end of the show. That's not the way to do it. You make these it's like driving. You just turn the wheel a little bit.
We can't do too.
You have time to do that?
No, but I'm just saying, I'm not so sure that we couldn't handle this among ourselves just as well. And the other thing is, I'm thinking if we allowed them to roll their money that we earn this year in our refund from insurance companies for our calls, I think we're on track for somewhere around 400,000, Jose, this year in collections.
So we swipe accounts and put it
What I'm saying is,
in interest-bearing accounts.
if we just roll that over into their accounts, well, next year, they've got a little bit to save up, like we're talking with the district.
I think we're doing that, some of that, Commissioner. I think that we are doing that. It's just that when you say that we can handle it amongst ourselves, it's pretty obvious to me we can't. I mean, we haven't. What's going to change? Invent some more hours in the day? I mean, we've all got full plates.
It's all going to depend on the strength of the board that we appoint, or however we get it.
I would prefer to have a board of directors that has a vested interest in this, that has some experience in it, and utilize their expertise, as opposed to us doing it. I can't stay any longer. I got to go fix a road, or I got to go to court, or I got to do this. This is going to require some dedication. And if you mimic the EMS emergency services district that are working well in other places, and you try to do what they're doing and see what's working and what's not, you learn from their failures, I think you'll have a better outcome. I mean, we all seem to be in agreement that this is not a good plan that we're working under and that we're having to go back. You're not happy to be here, Jose, I'm sure. You don't like this. I don't like it either. But you know what? We're responsible for guarding the money in this county. So we have to do our due diligence, exercise our due diligence to try to make it fit better. So I would really like to see if we can move forward on this.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
Okay.
We need to talk to other.
I'd like to table this until the next meeting. And by then, everyone should have some input, and we can decide whether we want to give the voters a chance to say yay or nay on whether they would like to pursue it. And then we'll move forward after November, and we'll do the best we can to serve these people.
So when you say they vote to pursue it, so to change it or to look into it? What do you mean by pursue?
To look into it, to really get serious and start taking some concrete steps.
He won't get the taxpayers' input so that they can have a say in whether they want to fool with this or not. That's all he's asking for.
Yeah, I'm not asking to vote to form emergency services.
75% don't want to do it. Ain't no need pursuing this. But if 75% want to do it, then it's something we start looking into and doing.
Mr. Christopher?
I don't think I need a mask to talk to y'all, or I don't need to use a microphone.
Okay. Well, I'm old.
Number one, you're talking about the voters agreeing or disagreeing to have this district. The most recent election in the runoff, we had less than 25% of the voters in precinct 3 vote for the commissioner. This is complete apathy on that part of the county. Less than 25%. There's like 1,600 voters, and there were less than 400 voters that even applied in the 2 weeks worth of time.
Sure.
You're asking, Mickey White is sitting over here saying 75% of the voters in the county may say this is a good idea or whatever. 75% of the voters in the county aren't even going to vote. And whether it increases my taxes or not, what I want decent services, like Kenneth Edwards said. What is a life worth? And the thing is, they're already getting money back from insurance companies. They're already getting all this other stuff. We've only had 1 year, or a year and almost a year and 2/3, operating under the new system with the amount of money that's being paid in or whatever, how they're operating their hours. And you're coming in and you sat here and argued, this is what was going on in 2018 under the old system, and now it jumped up 4 times to go to 2019 on the overtime. That it jumped up. Yes, it did, and it jumped up, and they kept trying to explain that the overtime jumped up because of the way the hours were being allocated. So you've only had 1 year that it's done, and yes, this may be a new normal that we're operating on. And yes, the EMS may have to come back, but I don't think that the voters of this county are willing to come in and actually step up to the plate and vote on some kind of a non-binding referendum. Go ahead, get the information done, get the information out, and then let our elected officials come in and put it out to the voters at that time, whether or not they want to have it. Right now, it's a moot point because there's no information out there as to whether or not this would even work here in this county.
That's what we're fixing to gather, sir.
Yes, sir. And so right now, I am against it based on what is being said.
Against what?
Against having the referendum, because I don't think the citizens of this county would be willing to come in and vote.
Okay, well, this is a presidential election, and if you think that only a quarter of the people are gonna vote?
They take a look at what happened in
Well, that's just my opinion. Everybody gets one.
we all have our own
Yes, sir.
opinions, and I don't believe that we're going to have a lot of people that would be voting on it. We didn't
Okay.
vote on the others, and I think that overall in this country, we have a major amount of voter apathy because they're tired of the way the political system is being done. They're tired of people being ramrodded in. I want to commend Kenneth and Alonzo and David on the work that they have done for the last year, for the last 2 years, in trying to maintain this county and keep this county operating. And for them to be set here, the last time I was here, they were being bad-mouthed by one of the public people that they weren't supporting you. Whether they support you or not is immaterial. They are here representing us, not to represent you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much, sir. Okay, so let's, decide what we're gonna do here.
You said want to table it.
We're gonna table it, and we're gonna try to gather information, and we're gonna decide whether or not the public would support this, and then we'll have it on the agenda for 2 weeks from now. So, anything else? If not,
You need a motion,
I'm sorry.
you need a motion to table it.
I got that. So, we need a motion to table this thing and hold it till the next meeting. Can I get a motion? Second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Public announcements.
There will be no Carolyn service.
Sorry.
No Carolyn service.
Any other announcements? Public comments?
Yes, sir. In response, gentlemen,
There's an old saying in South Texas, if you want clear water, keep the cat out of it. Now, I don't think that you guys are taking the goodness by yourself, I think it's better on the street, probably from somebody out of the county. Now, I do not like to visit after the church meeting, be back here at the back of the room, and I would like to talk to them about investigating recall ballot and organizing the vote, because he was correct. November is very, very serious. It is the future of our way of life, our community, our state, and our country. And I want to give away t-shirts next week.
Anyone else have a comment?
Can we just look into the emergency services district more, understand, feel more work for our county?
That's what we're gonna do.
I'll stand tomorrow, Pat Davis is county judge, I grew up with this friend of mine, I'll go talk to him about it if I need to, and bring all the information. Because if it'll work, if it'll help plug up the holes for EMS spinach and overtime, because I know you're short-handed. If it'll work, why don't we look at it? Why don't we try it instead of having all this back and forth about, it won't work, we have this negativity right off the bat?
That's what we want to do. If there's nothing further,
We used to say kind of what we'd like to put on the agenda for next meeting, and we had talked about our policy manual. And, I think, TAC had sent us some information, going through ours. So I would like to put that on the agenda. And, Brian, if you get everybody maybe that TAC sent us, all the department heads, so they can look at it and anything that concerns any of the other departments, so we can get this policy manual done also.
that's a major concern of mine. We've gathered, P&E manuals from, a number of counties around, and, to some extent, it'll be kind of a cut and paste thing. But we desperately need a P&E manual.
Can you get the information to us pretty quick, what y'all found maybe? So
All I can do is forward the commissioner's court, the, P&E manuals that we have.
Excellent. Okay.
That's what I can do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Need a motion to adjourn, please.
So move.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, people.